A new neighbor brings unexpected challenges to my marriage. Can I trust my husband again? Or has an emotional affair changed everything? Join me on this emotional roller coaster. A new neighbor and growing concerns. Let me take you back to a time not too long ago where my life took an unexpected turn. It all started with the arrival of a new neighbor, Beth, a single mother who moved into our estate just a few weeks ago. She seemed sweet enough, and my husband, Carl, being the friendly person he is, immediately offered to help her with small tasks around her home. He's always been the kind of guy to lend a hand, but soon these gestures turned into something that began to gnaw at the edges of my heart. It was harmless at first, just the usual help one neighbor provides to another. But as the weeks passed, Beth's requests for assistance grew more frequent. I didn't bat an eye initially. After all, Carl has always been helpful to everyone around us, including our close neighbors. However, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. After recently giving birth to our son, I was still adjusting to the challenges of motherhood, and it seemed like Carl was spending more time helping Beth than being by my side. One afternoon, while I was at work, I received a message from a neighbor saying that Beth had dropped by to see Carl. I didn't think much of it until it happened again, and again. Each time, Beth would come over in her workout clothes, which struck me as odd, almost as if she was trying to impress him. The more I thought about it, the more I felt a knot forming in my stomach. The tipping point came when I noticed they were sharing meals together while I was away on a work trip. I watched the footage from our home cameras, and I swear I felt my heart drop. My husband, who usually made excuses to eat at his computer, was actually sitting at the table with her. I couldn't help but feel betrayed. When I confronted Carl about it, he promised he would set boundaries with Beth. That made me feel a little better, but the very next day, she showed up again. I was furious. I told him that if I saw her at our home again while I wasn't there, it would signal to me that he didn't care about my feelings. Would he keep this up? And what would it mean for our relationship? Part 2. Boundaries and breakdowns. You know, it's funny how the mind works in times of stress. I remember that evening vividly. Carl and I had a calm, yet serious discussion where I laid out my discomfort about Beth's frequent visits. He seemed to understand, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was losing him to this new friendship. The very next morning, my heart sank further when I found out that while I was home, she still managed to find ways to pop over. The situation escalated when our baby got sick, and I found myself at home only to discover that Beth was still trying to engage with Carl. This was the last straw. I couldn't believe my husband would still entertain her when he knew how uncomfortable it made me feel. After all we'd been through, how could he not prioritize my feelings? That night, we had another heated discussion. I told Carl that if this continued, I might have to reconsider our future together. As much as I wanted to trust him, I felt as if he was oblivious to the emotional toll this was taking on our marriage. I needed him to stand up for us, not just be a friend to her. He assured me he would talk to Beth and set some firm boundaries, but when he came back from that conversation, it was clear that Beth was more manipulative than I realized. She was apologetic, of course, but I couldn't help but sense that she was playing the victim. Over the next 2 weeks, Beth stopped visiting, but the damage was done. Carl refused to show me the texts they exchanged, which only fueled my suspicions. Was I being paranoid, or was there something more going on? I felt like I was teetering on the edge of a cliff, and I needed answers. Part 3. The unraveling truth. As days turned into weeks, the absence of Beth felt like a breath of fresh air, but the tension between Carl and I lingered. I was desperate for clarity, and I ended up finding a way to look at the messages between them. Let me tell you, my heart raced as I scrolled through their conversations. To my surprise, there wasn't anything overtly inappropriate. There were no flirty exchanges or sexual innuendos, but one particular text stood out, a timestamp from early morning that made me question everything. I confronted Carl about the messages, and that's when everything exploded. Our fight was intense, fueled by my frustration and his defensiveness. I expressed my fear of separation, and I think that woke him up to the gravity of the situation. We started therapy together, and he even brought up the idea that maybe Beth's behavior wasn't just innocent friendship. My heart fluttered at the thought that he might finally see what I had been seeing all along. But as I struggled with my feelings, I decided to reach out to Beth. I thought maybe we could bury the hatchet, but it quickly spiraled into another emotional roller coaster. Her response was filled with justifications and excuses, and I found myself questioning my own feelings yet again. The way she dismissed my discomfort felt like a slap in the face. I realized I had made a mistake by giving her any form of power over me. I was supposed to be moving forward, but here I was, caught in a web of her manipulations. I had to set boundaries, not just for Carl, but for myself. What was I doing? I knew I had to take control before I lost everything. Part 4. A new beginning. After that heated exchange with Beth, I finally blocked her number. It felt liberating to cut that toxicity out of my life, but I also felt a weight lift from my marriage. Carl and I began to communicate more openly, and he promised to be more aware of my feelings moving forward. He assured me that he wouldn't let anyone come between us again. She eventually moved out of the estate, and I didn't have to deal with her presence any longer. Our relationship began to heal, but it wasn't an easy road. There were moments where I still felt the sting of betrayal, but with therapy, we were learning to rebuild trust. As time passed, I started to see glimpses of the husband I fell in love with. He was making an effort to be more present in our family life, reassuring me that I was his priority. I felt like I was finally getting the attention I had craved since the arrival of our baby. Looking back, I realized that everything I went through was essential for our growth as a couple. It taught us both about boundaries, respect, and the importance of open communication. We didn't just survive this ordeal, we emerged stronger. As for Beth, I hope she finds what she's looking for, but I'm glad to have put that chapter behind me. Life is full of unexpected twists and turns, but I'm learning to navigate them with my head held high. All in all, I'm grateful for the lessons learned and excited for where our journey together will lead us next.